This video will be a demonstration of Sparkline charts. So Sparkline charts are basically a mini little chart that attaches to a single cell. So because they're so small, you're basically using them to show trends over time. Are a good example, or I'll demonstrate one, what's called a win-loss sparkline. They can be in any cell. Very often they're next to the data, so I can put them over here, I could put them over here. But like I said, they can be in any cell, they could even be on a separate sheet. I could create sparklines over here reflecting this data. But just to get started, we'll go to the insert ribbon. Right here is the sparklines, line, column, and win-loss. We'll talk about that one last. So we're going to do a line sparkline to reflect this data. And there's several ways to create them. One is just to do a single sparkline, and then you can copy the information down. So let's try that. You select that single cell, and then it goes, well, your location is A3. You've already selected it. So what data range do you want to chart? And so we're going to chart this information right here, and now we hit OK. We have a single sparkline. I can now drag that down, and each one of these will reflect their particular row of information. To get rid of sparklines are a little tricky. You just can't hit delete on the keyboard. I think if I select them all, I'll go to the home ribbon and then hit clear, and clear all gets rid of them. The other way to have created it, rather than a single cell and then copy them down, you could select all the cells right from the get-go, and then you go insert line again, and now it says, well, here's where we're putting them, where's the data range? And so we can select that data range, hit OK. Same idea. One more time, I can select all the data first, insert sparkline, and then it's going to ask, okay, well, here's the data, where do you want to put them? And so then I can put them wherever at that point and have the same piece of data. I think it's because I have too many rows selected here. Let's see if I can fix that by only choosing 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then hitting OK. And then I get my lines down here. Again, if I hit delete on the keyboard, not much fun, but I can run over here to home and clear all and get rid of those. Okay, so we have these lines. When you create a sparkline, they have their own ribbon. So notice up here I have a brand new sparkline ribbon. One of the things is a style on the ribbon, so you can change the color or whatever at that point. You can also, on that ribbon, change it from line to column. So now this is what a column sparkline looks like. You can edit the data for the entire group right here. It brings up this dialog box again. Now, what if I wanted to change the color of one of these, but not all of them? I want to emphasize shampoo a little bit. So notice they're grouped. So when I click on a new style, it does it to the entire group. If you want to impact just one of them, you would need to ungroup that one. So you select that one and hit ungroup, and now these guys are in a group, but he is on his own. And so now I can grab that guy and make it a different color, but it doesn't affect the color of the rest of these. The other thing I want to point out is, I'll go ahead and do it with this group still, you can emphasize high and low points, first and last point, or negative points. I want to see the high point with a different color, so I click on that, and notice in this group I have now the high point with a different color. You can then, on that same ribbon, change your marker color. So I want the high point to be a dark green maybe instead of whatever that was, brown. I can also add the low point. So now you can barely see that on here. It's kind of hard to see. If I switch it to line, you'll now see a low point dot. And again, I can go to the marker color and say, oh, I want the low point to be a bright red right here. And so there's your low point dot and your high point dot in that group. The other thing I'll mention is all of these lines, they're basically just showing you a trend of sales. But notice this one, the numbers tend to be much larger, 180, 280, 150, or down here, nothing is over 100. It's hard to reflect that in these sparklines, that the conditioner has larger numbers than the rest. And so how you can adjust for that is, again, in the sparkline ribbon, there's this thing called axis. Right now, the axis just is based on the data that's here, right? So it's relative to the data. If you want it to be consistent across all of the data, you would run up here and say use it the same for all sparklines, and when I click on this, our conditioner line is going to change a little bit. So it's hard to tell, but it bumped up some. If I run here and say, hey, I'm going to set this as a custom value of 0, then when I hit OK, again, it bumped up a little bit. My numbers aren't that radically different, so it's hard. You don't see it a lot. But if these were in the thousands or something, these charts would be way down in their cell, where this one would be way up in the cell. What else do we have on this ribbon? I've been going to the home and going clear all, but right here you have a clear button too, where you can clear the selected sparkline or the sparkline group. So right now this is a group, so if I clear it, that entire group went away. If I want to put it back again, real quick, insert line, and then what data do you want? So I would grab through December. Now I've recreated my charts at that point. We've talked about editing data. One other thing that gets a little weird, if you have a cell that has nothing in it, your sparkline will have a gap. So the question becomes, how do I want to deal with that gap? And it's under this edit, hidden and empty cells. Now you can show it as a gap or 0. So if I hit OK, it goes ahead and connects that with a 0. Or I could switch that out to be connect the points with the line, which is probably a little hard to see the difference there. But that's how you deal with negative or blank data in your sparklines. Last sparkline that I'll mention is the win-loss. And how that works, all it does is it has one color for positive values and another color for negative values, and it won't chart anything if you have a 0. That's all it does. It's not a reflection of the size of the number, whether it's positive or negative. That's all it's doing. So I will grab that range over here and do a win-loss sparkline. What data do we want? We want right here, and we hit OK. And so you'll just see blue for things being positive and red for things being negative. So in terms of our net income, I can then recognize I have 3 months where we were negative or had negative net income for shampoo. Conditioner's not doing well at all, neither is treatment, but then styling, we just have a few negative months. So that's what it looks like. If I were to take February here and put a 0, so watch this blue dot right there will go away when I put a 0 there. So then it doesn't show either blue or red. It's just leaves it blank. And so then if I put in a negative number in there, again, it doesn't care about the size. It's just going to put a, and they call this win-loss. If you can just have ones and negative ones, every time you win a game, you put 1. If you lose a game, you put -1. Then you could use this as a win-loss indicator. And again, if you don't want blue and red, you can use the Sparkline ribbon, and you have different color patterns to work with. So that's it for sparklines. Easy to use or relatively handy if you just want to do a quick little trend line about some data without actually creating a much larger chart.